Good afternoon, fellas. Time has come. I know it's long overdue, but patience is the key. And God works in mysterious ways, and He's always on time. Might not be your time or my time, but He's always on time. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Keontae. This is the introduction to His Relief podcast, my podcast that I decided to create, and I would say that it's long overdue. This podcast was long overdue. I decided to do this podcast. Well, I wanted to do a podcast, I would say like 5 to 6 years ago. I probably want to say probably 5 years ago, but I'm a procrastinator. Well, I was, still am. And I didn't know at first what I wanted my podcast to be based on. I kind of had an idea, but I didn't really know for sure, certainly, what I wanted my podcast to be based on. But I had a feeling like, man, as a man, for myself, I deal with a lot of mental, health issues, dealing with like different, depressions, trauma from either childhood to adulthood traumas, from even teenage traumas. And I thought to myself, I was like, mental health should be the surrounding topic of this podcast, because I feel as though it's not really spoken of or spoken on. Men's mental health is more of a hidden type of thing, because as men, and not even just men, we can say teenagers, we can say young boys, we really don't like to express feelings, especially having grown up with don't show your feelings, you shouldn't cry, men don't cry, boys don't cry, toughen up, tough love, and being taught that from a kid to adulthood, it can be smothered. And when I say smothered, it can be more of you used to it, you feel as though like people don't care, family members don't care, your girlfriend don't care, your wife doesn't care, just nobody don't care. And when you being told so long from a child to an adult, man, your feelings, you acting like a girl, you crying like a girl, toughen up, boys don't cry, men don't cry, and that becomes to harden our feelings. So it caused long overdue trauma and caused long overdue mental health. So I feel as though like this podcast will be good for young men and grown men and men of all color, all race, because mental health in men does not discriminate. It doesn't. So I feel that this podcast, men's mental health, will be the surrounding topic. It will be the important topic, and it will be what this podcast is going to be about. And it's more of a therapy type of ordeal where young men and men can sit in a circle and just relieve either what they've been through in the past to currently what they go through of today. And we all can just sit around and just talk about it. Sit around, just relieve it off your chest, relieve it off your heart, relieve it off your mental. And you know what they say, talking about it is good. If you don't talk about it, then what good of it is going to make? It's not going to make any good. But talking about it, expressing it to men that deal with it just like you, men that have to deal with it on a daily basis just like you, genuinely. And this podcast is going to be free of just letting it all out with no man judging you, no one judging you. This will be no judgmental podcast. None whatsoever. Because it's serious. Always been serious. Going to continue to be serious. And this podcast is going to be a scapegoat. Not an escape from reality, because we still live in reality, and mental health is reality, but more of a escape the world of what I have to deal with on a daily basis, what I have to deal with from past to present trauma, and to let it all out with amongst young men and men that deals with it just like me. And I believe like it can be good for us. It might not be a fully curable thing, but it's an outlet that can get you through the next day, and maybe even help you to relieve a lot of that old past trauma, a lot of that present trauma, because it's what's needed. And I'm very new to the podcast world. You know, I follow a lot of different podcasters on YouTube, and a lot of them are more like how to be a better man, how to, become a better man, how to strengthen yourself as a man, how to dress appropriate, how to, forget that girl that did you wrong, or different podcasts for men that just help them be a better man. But this podcast is more for help you deal with something internal that we don't talk about, that is pushed in the back, that is swept underneath the rug. It's for our health, mental health. And I would like to bring it to all of us men, young and grown, white and black. Doesn't matter. It's for us fellas. And there will be more to come. Like I said, this is the introduction to this podcast, which is called His Relief, because it's our relief. And it is much needed. So, fellas, you will hear from me more. And it's not, like I said, it's not just going to be about me. It's not just going to be about just me on this podcast. Like I said, it's going to be circle of therapy. So it would be more of a therapy where we sit around in a circle and just express our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our traumas, and just let it all out. So this is the introduction to His Relief podcast, Circle of Therapy. You'll hear from me more on the next episode. Because like I said, this is the introduction. You'll hear from me on the premiere episode of His Relief podcast. See you later, fellas.